renters. It's not true.
Well, you may be a good landlord, but we have thousands of landlords taking advantage of a housing crisis, raising rents.
Okay, Chloe,
I
I get
know
what
you're
you're
trying this
saying.
out, and you are criticizing my policy,
Right.
so I need to respond. We didn't vilify homeowners. We told landlords, if you are going to no cause evict or raise your tenant's rent 10% or more, which by the way is 3 or 4 times the average annual cost increase, you will share in the burden that you are creating for your tenant and for this city. Now, it doesn't sound like you were one of those landlords, and I'm sorry that it negatively impacted you, but we had to take action to protect hundreds of thousands of renters who are at risk of displacement and homelessness. And that's all I want to say. I'm
Can I
sorry.
say just a little more?
This isn't an opportunity for a dialogue. Feel free to contact my office.
Did you watch my previous testimony?
So let me do this, because the commissioner is correct. This is communications. It's not a game show.
I'm just wondering if she saw my
Yeah,
previous.
there is more to this. As I was listening to your testimony, there's also a public safety component here. There's a policing component. And since you are in touch with your precinct, is that correct?
Yes.
Or no? Okay.
Yes, I will.
And if you need to connect with somebody, let me know.
I would like that. Do I just tell them?
Is Michelle, yeah, just talk to Michelle, give her your contact information, I'll follow.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
And I wanted to be here last time so you could hear. So I could
Very good.
watch.
All right, consent agenda, any items been pulled from?
No requests.
Call the roll.
Daily?
I want to note, or I am going to note that the consent agenda includes replacing gender-specific language in Title 21, which is the Water Bureau's code. All bureaus were directed to update their codes to remove gender-specific language, and I'm really proud that the Water Bureau is close out of the gate. Aye. Aye.
Aye. Weaver?
Aye. Consent agenda is adopted. First time certified 1166.
Authorize the purchase of certain real property known as the West Wind Apartments located at 323 and 3237 Northwest 6th Avenue for purchase price and closing cost in an amount not to exceed $3,052,056.
Colleagues, we regularly hear during communications that we are either not addressing the homeless crisis or we are not sufficiently addressing the homeless crisis. I hope that this ordinance goes some way towards compelling people to understand that we are approaching this with a sense of urgency, that it is a priority, that we are making significant investments, and we are even taking significant risks to be able to address this crisis that we all agree is unfolding on our streets. This ordinance is for the acquisition of the West Wind Apartments in Old Town to be redeveloped under Portland's housing bond, which was supported by the voters in the city of Portland. The West Wind represents the 5th property identified for the bond program, bringing the total number of units acquired and planned to just over 600, nearly halfway towards our goal of 1,300. Currently, the West Wind provides 70 low-cost, low-barrier, single-room occupancy units. This acquisition will preserve a scarce type of housing that's vital to our efforts to tackle homelessness in the central city for our most vulnerable neighbors and moves us closer towards our goal of 2,000 units in 10 years with regard to supportive housing. Future plans to replace the existing building will create new units that are safe, high quality, and permanently affordable homes with services for very low income individuals, including permanent supportive housing units. And so with that, I'll turn it over to our presenters panel. We have Shannon Callahan, of course, from the Portland Housing Bureau, Mark Jolin from the Joint Office of Homeless Services. Welcome and thank you both for being here.
Good morning, Mayor. Thank you very much. Shannon Callahan from the Portland Housing Bureau. I am pleased today to be here to request your authorization to purchase the West Wind Apartments located on Northwest 6th we will, I'm also joined here by Mark Jolin, and in a moment, you will also hear from Andy Shaw and Dana Brandon of Central City Concern, as well as Peter Meyer of Home Forward, all who are partners in helping us operate, provide services, and provide vouchers, rent support for low-income households who will be residing in the future West Wind. As you heard at the permanent supportive housing briefing that you and Multnomah County held earlier this year, this is a joint project of the Housing Bureau, the Public Housing Bond specifically, and Multnomah County. As the mayor mentioned, the West Wind has for many years served as low barrier housing for many of our most vulnerable residents. And to our knowledge, it's one of the last remaining single-room occupancy buildings in private hands within the central city. Many of the single-room occupancy buildings that we've been able to save are either in the ownership of the Portland Housing Bureau or our partners. Notably, as you'll hear from Central City Concern, who owns many of the single-room occupancy buildings left remaining in the central city. The fate of this building has long been on many of our city agencies' radar, including the Portland Housing Bureau, the Bureau of Development Services, many of the county's agencies, including mental health and addiction services, as many of their clients reside in this building and currently receive services from the county agencies. When we heard that this building last year was had the potential for sale, we all worked together to act to save and preserve this building, both for the current tenants and for the future tenants. And we're pleased that after almost a year of working on this building, we're here today to bring you this purchase. As the mayor mentioned, we do plan on replacing this building with approximately 70 units, which is currently the current number of units in the building. We have about 50 of those units that are currently occupied by households, many of whom have been placed either through county services or our nonprofit support partners. This ordinance today asks you to approve approximately $3 million of downtown waterfront urban renewal area. We will be using those funds to acquire the building, and then in partnership with Multnomah County and the Housing Bond, replacing that building. I also would like to note that we are currently exploring the use of low-income tax credits, which to replace this building. It is made possible to us by the adoption of Measure 102 last week, the constitutional amendment. This was not something that was possible before that, but it could bring a significant amount of equity and capital to replace this building and ensure both the safe community for the residents, but also a lively commercial ground floor for the Old County.
When is 102 effective?
To effect 30 days from the time that it is certified by the Secretary of State. I apologize, I don't know that that has occurred yet. But we are working with the Bond Oversight Committee the first week of December to start to make plans on how to adapt the rollout of the constitutional amendment as it relates to the Portland Housing Bond. As the mayor mentioned, this property is significant to ensuring the goals that you set for reaching supportive housing. 2,000 new units in the next 10 years. As you heard earlier this year, we've already programmed or planned for at least 500 of those units. And finally, before I turn it over to Mark, I'd like to note, as the mayor said, this is the 5th bond project that we've identified, which so far we've identified more than 634 new units or acquired units of housing. And I am pleased to turn it over to Mark Jolin of the Trade.
Shannon, Mayor, Commissioners, Mark Jolin, the Director of the Joint Office of Homeless Services. And I just want to take a minute to celebrate the partnership that this project represents amongst all of us who you'll hear from today, but in particular the city and the county. At the time that Wapato was sold last year, the county commission, in a resolution brought forward by Commissioner Lori Stegman, directed an exploration of the best uses of the proceeds from that sale. There was quickly agreement that the most critical need was to expand permanent supportive housing. We reached out to Shannon and the Portland Housing Bureau asking where there might be an opportunity to co-invest the funds in a project with the city that would add supportive housing capacity, in particular for people who are chronically homeless and struggling with serious mental and physical health challenges. The West Wind represented the perfect opportunity to acquire a building to prevent the displacement of the vulnerable tenants already in that building and to invest in replacing it with 70 new SRO units with intensive on-site support services. The county board voted unanimously to approve the intergovernmental agreement, transferring $4 million to the Portland Housing Bureau for use in the redevelopment of the West Wind. As the project moves forward, the Joint Office will use city and county supportive housing funds to provide the wraparound support services that the tenants in the building need. We will also use our coordinated access system to ensure equitable access to the units for the most vulnerable adults in our community. Through a network of more than 27 nonprofits, including 7 culturally specific providers, we have implemented a single assessment support for supportive housing that can be conducted anywhere in the community. We've trained more than 200 people to conduct those assessments. Coordinated Access prioritizes people for access to the dozens of different supportive housing projects in our community, including both permanent supportive housing and recovery housing. No longer does someone who is extremely vulnerable have to travel all over town to be assessed and apply for multiple different supportive housing programs. They do one assessment and we match them to units as they become available in any of the community's supportive housing projects. And given that some people are so vulnerable and isolated that they won't seek out services themselves, we have a whole team of outreach workers who are in the community conducting supportive housing assessments on the streets and in people's camps. Right now, we have about 1,300 chronically homeless people who've been assessed through coordinated access and are waiting to be matched for an appropriate supportive housing unit. The West Wind will be a critical addition to the inventory of units available to these extremely vulnerable people in our community, many of whom are living unsheltered. The West Wind is also a great example of the kind of partnership that will allow us to fulfill the promise of adding at least 2,000 units of supportive housing in our community by 2028. I thank you for your support of the West Wind acquisition and of the people in our community who so desperately need this kind of housing opportunity.
Thank you.
With that, Mayor, I'd like to invite up Andy Shaw and Dana Brandon to Central City Concern, as well as Peter Byer.
Colleagues, while they're coming up, I'd like to add a technical amendment to the request of the Housing Bureau. The amendment would read as follows: to ensure that we're in compliance with local budget law, I move to strike section 1C, which reads, C, increase appropriations to Portland Housing Bureau by $154,000 through the end of the current fiscal year, and replace the language of the following: in order to ensure sufficient cash flow to operate the subject property for the remainder of the fiscal year, this ordinance authorizes a transfer of $154,000 from the Housing Investment Fund to the Tax Increment Financing Reimbursement Fund. Can I get a second? Harlan, please call the roll.
This is the technical amendment that forgot to mention.
Aye. Saltzman.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. Amendment's adopted. Sorry, Walton, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
My name is Andy Shaw, the Director of Housing at Central City Concern. I'm here to speak a little bit about the historical use of the West Wind as a low-income and low-barrier housing, and also talk about the importance of preserving this housing type that benefits this neighborhood and the city, and how the West Wind, properties like the West Wind, is also a tremendous asset for service providers. Lastly, I also want to talk a little bit about CCC experience operating and managing low-barrier housing for very low-income individuals. West Wind, I think a couple of years ago, there was a study in San Diego that came out that talked about the correlation between the loss of SRO housing to the rise of homelessness in that city. And I think since the 1980s, about 14,000 units of SRO housing, they started losing about 75% of their 14,000 SRO units. And currently they saw a rise in homelessness. I think the city's acquisition of the West Wind is a great step forward to reversing trends like that in our city. This morning I was just there and just seeing kind of how neglected the property is. There was all kind of plaster and I think a lot of people, there were hoarding activities and very filthy condition. And so the city's acquisition of the West Wind is really critical in not only reversing the role of providing more affordable housing, but really kind of helping those who have been most marginalized to kind of to get connected to services. In terms of assets, as you know, Central City Concern, we're kind of 4 arms of our organization is health services, behavioral health, employment services, and housing support housing services. And I know that in a lot of SROs currently own, at least one of the SROs currently owned by private owners. We have, in one building, not the West Wind, another building, we have at least 20 individuals connected to our health services and behavioral health. So I think these assets are